topic, but no, seriously. WCS Premier groups are finalized. The drawings have been made. 8 groups are going to play. Lots of players, lots of things going to happen. Jeff, looking at these groups, is there any group that for you is the group to watch coming up?
Yeah, I'm looking at them now. I think it's actually pretty well dispersed. I don't think there's. I mean, I'm looking at this. I don't think I see like a really clear. This is the group of death. It's kind of interesting. There's a couple of ups and downs, like the young Neeb making it as a Protoss player, qualifying. A new Terran player from China. Well, new to us, I guess. Shauna. Like, unless that's a name change, I've never seen that in WCS or any tournaments. So that's a lot different. The big question mark, of course, is Major actually going to turn up for this tournament? And then like Violet. Violet's been a little bit like a Stardust in the sense that on paper you look at Violet and traditionally you say this is one of the best Zergs the world has to offer, but I'm not entirely sure that's actually true anymore. He's definitely capable of it, but he doesn't seem to be fully focused. Kane beating out Huck to be here, but Kane is also very well publicized, doesn't play very much. But otherwise, it's actually like a super winnable group. Like Ayasanu, I'm not high up on him. Xanster's been really hot, but also cold a few times here. We've seen him shut down a couple of these recent tournaments. And then 4GG has never looked more beatable. So I think this is like one of the more up for grabs WCSs I've seen on the group stage. Hydra seems to be the big monster, and Euthermal has been tearing it up TVZ, but even as I say that, today he lost to Rhett, I believe it was.
Euthermal's TV's never been that great, to be honest. He's always had like a lot of confidence issues with it. Like,
yeah,
he's in a weird spot with that matchup. He's so fucking good at the other two, and then just like plummets with TVZ.
And Starbuck's definitely good enough to beat him, And I mean, like, so that would be a Euthermal out. Interesting.
That's gonna be like the coolest group too, because Starbuck does weird shit against Terran specifically. So I think that's gonna be a really fun group to watch.
So these will be fun, but to answer your question, no, none of these groups really leap out at me as like this one is clearly the best of all of them. I don't think so.
Group G, we're gonna get to see who the fuck Hitman is, man.
That's interesting.
Is he a person? Who knows? Tune in and find out.
It would be more interesting though if he was like a huge shit talker. I know he's BM'd some people, but to be honest, for the most part, his experience is that he's a quiet cheeser. Like he's not the most hated person. I like it. It happened especially back in Brood War, but like when those huge shit talkers that you just never saw at tournaments, they qualify for something, you're like, oh god, yes, who are you? And it shows up, and they're like they're like Idra basically. It's what happened a lot of the times. Like, it would be Greg, but
I would love if Hitman came out and he was just like, I don't know, a midget or something just really weird and unexpected that nobody saw coming.
That's prejudicial or something. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, I don't mean specifically a midget, but I just mean like everyone's got this picture in their mind of like what this guy is, and everyone sees him so differently. I would love if he came out as just the weirdest imagination of everybody's imaginations combined.
It's like that effect when you're like hear a voiceover of like a football commentator or something for a long time. You see their face, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or like radio hosts as well.
Yeah,
when you meet them, you're like, wait, you look nothing like you sound.
Tom Cruise is 5'2", man. That's cool.
Crazy. That's
yeah.
Crazy.
Never looks 5'2", but he's actually 5'2".
So yeah, the games start August 13th. We're pretty close to that happening, so it's going to be exciting. Going to see what's going down. Harston Polt Petraeus Major. They're going to kick off WCS Premier for us, and then it's just going to be 15 days of nonstop action. Obviously not every day, but 15 days. WCS. The top 16 players will be finalized, and then Poland, I believe, is the location of the finals.
Yes, in September.
Jesus.
Yeah.
September 11th weekend.
There we go. So, the end. Moving on. Asus ROG. Biting my tongue. Asus ROG. ROG. Sorry. Republic of Gamers.
The
right?
UE is.
It's an invisible UE.
Asus ROG. Go ahead.
Anyway,
you're nailing it.
Yeah, thank you. So first thing I want to talk about is Huck as a caster. I feel like he's a guy that every time we see him, it's he didn't start off bad. He started off good, but just every time he's getting exponentially better, and that's to be expected as you become more practiced in that craft. But Jeff, he's your teammate, he's your buddy. I want to know how you feel about him and how he's doing now, in this endeavor.
Oh, yeah. I'll give a completely unbiased opinion that'll be very open and non-fluffy on this one. I mean, yeah, he's a good commentator. He's got a good personality. I think the realest talk I'll get. You ready for this one? And he'll see this, and I'm going to cast him in the future, and he'll fucking hate me, or maybe he'll hear it. The criticism I would have, and I wrote out like 15 snarky tweets, but I didn't send any of them because I'm the PC in control now, because I can actually, I get in trouble every time I say anything mean, so I don't do it. But all right, I'll just fucking say it. My snarky tweet was, I was gonna tweet like, hey, huge shout out to the Muslim for showing up to give emotional support to Huck as he solo cast an entire tournament. Like that was, it was gonna. I just couldn't find it in me to say it, but Jesus Christ, like the entire time. And actually, in my experience casting with Muslim can be very overpowering, especially in Terran matchups. Like it's hard to get a word in edgewise, but Huck destroyed him. He actually killed him in that category, and they obviously found it's harder when two guys don't cast with each other, so that's something that's happening. And in the finals, I actually think they did a very good job. There's some humor there. They're bouncing off each other. It seemed to be at that time they gelled. That's like actually a pretty predictable thing to have happen because, again, Huck is relatively new to casting. DeMuslim is not as new, but still a little bit more infrequent, I would say. That both these guys would tell you that their full-time gig is playing the game as opposed to casting it for right now, but it's getting closer to being, casting is either halfway or full-time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very common criticism, and both of them are well-liked and loved, and they did a great job, so I hope they don't hate me now, but I did think that was quite funny, that at least in this tournament, Huck was like 85% of the words that were said, and he actually silenced a Muslim for most of it, so I think he's a very good commentator, great personality, knows his shit, obviously. His bravado and confidence comes through, and I actually quite like it, because I think there's a lot of that in my commentary as well, but that was something that they improved on and did really well towards the end.
Good. Rifkin.
I've gotten a cast with Huck a couple times actually, and he's it's weird because it was almost not the exact opposite, but like he's very charismatic. That's always been like a thing for Huck, like whether it was him playing or him talking. And one thing I found when he was casting with us though, like he was very good at taking turns. So when he was, because I watched day 2 or whatever after we were done casting, it was like kind of funny to watch him overpower the Muslim, because the Muslim, I think it was like the pacing may have been off. Like the Muslim, when you hear him cast with Nathanias for like Fragment Masters and stuff, it's a lot more calm and laid back, and he lets Nate do all the hype stuff. And I feel like that's kind of like Huck may have just been a little more, I don't know, I don't want to say energetic because people are gonna think husky, right? But like I think Huck's just a little more like willing to jump on the ball, I guess, if that makes more sense. Whereas the Muslim's more laid back. I don't think either casting styles are bad. I mean, I like them both individually, right. But yeah, it was like really overpowering for Huck in the Asus ROG.
So you've let Huck cast with you a few times, have you, Graham?
Yeah, he's been on for an Archon mode tournament. It's been tri-cast both times, but Archon mode tournament and I think WCS qualifiers. We ended up having like a weird quad cast. QXC came on as well for that. But like all times, it was just like a casual conversation, less than him super bravado casting, I guess.
So what you're saying is you've let other people cast on your channel before? Oh
yeah, tons of other people. Like you may have seen many of them or heard of them.
Yeah, I have. I'm a big fan of your channel.
I tend to let a lot of people on the channel.
I noticed
for various casts.
Yeah. Anyway, so
it's funny you bring that up. Any reason? Or
this is how he got the gig at WCS, guys. By the way, it was the.
Yeah, I've heard you've had other casters at WCS ESL.
Hey, Blizzard,
yeah.
Doing it.
I've heard.
Anyway, I see you have that in control guy. I mean, come on, you have him. Why don't you have me yet? That was the logic that I laid upon him, and it worked apparently.
Well, you met Huck, I think. I don't think I've casted on base trade actually.
Anyway, moving on to the games. Let's see, Rifkin, you did a lot of casting. Was there any particular matchup that just really struck you, thought was incredibly exciting, an upset perhaps?
So we did Group E in the first stage, and honestly, that group did not go as expected. Fantasy actually almost got knocked out of the group, which is kind of crazy. I foresaw maybe Cyril taking Keen down, but Keen finished first in the group. And if you guys have tuned into the Alima League or any of the casts we do over there for Korea, it's a lot of TVTs, and Keen has been playing like trash. So when we went into this with Crank, even Crank was kind of like, I don't think Keen's going to do well in this group. Maybe Cyril actually knocks him out. But Keen takes first place in the group over Fantasy. Fantasy almost throws it in the finals match versus Cyril. I mean, like, it was... That alone was kind of surprising because I regard Fantasy to be like one of the better Terran players there are. Maybe not the best, of course, but like in my eyes, one of the better ones out there. So like that first group stage threw me for a huge loop because I was just like, what the fuck is happening? Then
Okay.
of course we had the pleasure of catching Drogo in stage 2, and then everyone knows how Drogo did after that. So like it was really cool getting to see his kickoff, I guess, into the tournament.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, Jeff, it was Petit Drogo versus Lucira, and it went.
Yeah.
I mean, just the way that series went. What did you think of Petit Drogo's performance?
So to be honest, it was going on long, and I streamed in the middle of the finals, so I didn't watch it because it looked like Lasir was starting to smash Petit Drogo. That finished that way, right? It was like 3-1 or
Yeah,
3-0. Okay.
3-2.
I watched everything up until then, and it was awesome. Petit Drogo obviously exemplifies the European PvZ right now, which can almost be described as like the French PvZ, but it just threw. It just looked great. Was it Hyun he beat before that, or what
Yep.
was the Zerg he?
Hyun,
Yeah, it was Hyun.
Yep.
Hyun looked completely ineffectual, like he had no answer for it and just got
3-up.
steamrolled. He would like counterattack when the Protoss army was already out there with the Mothership Core and stuff like that. Like it was kind of refreshing to see a top tier Korean look like they didn't know what the hell was going on, as opposed to what it usually happens, which is it's like always the foreigner that's just like, I have no fucking idea, and the Korean's just like laughing out loud. And then even the finals started out really well, actually. It was a couple of competitive games between them, but then I turned it off because Lucira. Anyways, it was awesome to see, and it's good to see a foreigner like that's also part, like when people ask like, why is it so hard for a foreigner to win a tournament? I mean, look at Petit Drogo's run through Asus ROG, which had a lot of the best Europeans and some good Koreans, but not like 25 of the best Koreans.
Mm-hmm.
Even to get to the finals, he had to beat, I believe it was
Hyun.
it was at least 2 Koreans before that. I think there was one in the first round that he beat, right?
Apocalypse.
Apocalypse. Yeah. So it's like in order to win a tournament like that, he needs to beat all the top Europeans, which in and of itself is really good, and then he has to at least beat 3 Koreans, and none of them are, Maru or something like that. But Lucira, one of the big names of the old times, Hyun, one of the guys that's actually been a terror in the foreigner scene in Apocalypse, is respectable. I think he's one of the more beatable Korean Terrans, but still very good. At least top tier non-Korean. So it's an accomplishment, and it's really awesome. And the games were pretty cool. I thought the only like it's not even a complaint, but one of the kind of weird remarks I have for Asus ROG is that their production looks exactly like DreamHack. Like the UI, the graphics in between, like everything about it is exactly DreamHack, which I think they use some of the same people, but I would be so weirded out by that if I was DreamHack. I'm like, hey,
Honest.
that's our tournament you're doing. Like, that is our stuff. The graphics, the
Right.
timer, like the next game, the silly commentary, like the words that'll come up in between. It's like it's all DreamHack.
Yeah. One thing as we transition to the next topic that I want to say just about DreamHack, since it's been brought up, is that I miss the production, and I'm not saying that it happened because Robert Olin left, but I'm just saying before Robert Olin left, they would have those funny videos they'd play in the middle, those the different music videos. Yeah, after ski and
That's
all
a
that
great
stuff.
song.
It really is, and they don't do that anymore. And I think that really helped with the downtime of all those open brackets. Was I might not be here, but hey, let me watch this guy play Star Wars theme on piano from 1970. So, it was. I like that.
Having worked with DreamHack quite a bit, I can tell you that certainly like that spirit of DreamHack was something that Robert Olin really liked and encouraged. But I don't know that I would give him full credit for that's why it's there or isn't there.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't do that stuff as much, I haven't worked the last few DreamHacks, so I couldn't tell you firsthand experience, but I don't know that it's like a philosophical shift. I think it's just like a lot of times they give a guy and they're like, you are the DJ, so you play videos and music in between, and that guy for DreamHack has in the past been very goofy and stuff and given free reign.
Yeah.
So maybe they switched that guy specifically, but I don't attribute it to Robert Olin because I don't think that that's necessarily the case.
Okay. Yeah, I know actually who the guy is that picks the videos. I don't talk to him though, so I don't know if he was told, hey, we're trying to stick with Twitch rules, not play all these different songs, things like that. But it's something I miss. It's something I really liked about DreamHack. Yeah. So anyway, we're gonna move forward now with the topics. Finishing up Asus ROG. Did I say that right? All right. Let's talk about Allied Commanders. I'm excited for this. I was really looking forward. This is the first thing that we got to see that we couldn't really talk about, that we can now talk about. Before we do talk about this, though, and I believe I told everyone this beforehand, but there are things that we still can't talk about that weren't released, but we can talk about the 2 maps that were shown, which is the train map and then the one that has those like demon-like Protoss pop up. And then we can talk about the 3 characters that have been revealed, which are, I believe it's Jim,
Artanis,
and
Rainer,
Kerrigan.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, I had the things that I want to say, but I'm gonna kick it to Jeff because he got
You
to
call
sit
him
there.
Jim, huh?
Yeah, first name basis.
He's on a first name
Yeah.
basis with Mr.
I mean, you're a
Rainer.
Terran player, so I guess, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm one of Rainer's Raiders, baby.
I'm excited about it. This is something that was very reminiscent for me. I think Rifkin earlier said that he feels like Archon mode, and I 100% agree with this, is kind of one of those nice little nods to the more casual players and perhaps lower level players, but also still being awesome and fun for everybody above that as well. I also think Allied Commander is another way for people to enjoy this game without being stressed out too much by the hyper competitive and macro, or not macro necessarily, but mechanical aspect of the game. Like, I think this is another cool thing that when someone buys Legacy of the Void or pre-orders it, they can say, well, I'm not going to be playing single player hyper competitively because that's not my bag. I'll play it some, but I've got a great single player, Archon mode with my next door neighbor, and girlfriend's going to be awesome, or boyfriend. And also Allied Commander for when I'm feeling super chill and I want to have a few drinks or just relax and play something even a tone down from Archon mode, I feel. But still fun. Like, we all played it at that summit. It's actually pretty cool. It's got enough competitive edge to it that there is, like, you should be on Skype or whatever, TeamSpeak with your partner. You should be talking on some level. There's scaled difficulty, so it can get quite a bit harder, and then I think you can actually play it against other people too, which I like every aspect of that.
I didn't hear anything about other people, but
I think so.
that'd be cool. No, that'd be cool if they did. I just didn't hear anything about it myself. One of the things for Allied Commanders though that I really liked was and Control just brought this up, like the dynamic of like how people play it. I was bragging about this on stream earlier today. I'm gonna do it again now because it's a really funny dynamic. Myself and Zombie Grub, we're sitting there playing on brutal mode, like the hardest mode we managed to unlock before like we all got kicked out and stuff. And Crank and MMA wanted to come try. We beat all 3 of our brutal missions on like our first try, no problem. Crank and MMA failed on the one we beat first 3 times in a row before they gave up. So like these are like amazing Korean players that like can't deal with what is like, in my opinion, simple mechanics, right? So it's really funny. People from all different types will enjoy or dislike the game, but I love that Blizzard's actually giving us alternative options outside of the arcade. Like, I mean, this could very well have been just like an arcade game, but like standalone Allied Commanders is really cool. It's refined, and the best part is like they've already talked about how they're looking to prolong it. Like, it's not just like, okay, here's 6 missions, you're done for your life. Like, they want to add more as time goes on and more heroes and other things like that. So I think it's really cool. And there's this grind aspect to it too. Like, you level up and unlock abilities, and maybe that's not appealing to some, but I remember like leveling up in League of Legends, and like the first time I unlocked Ignite or whatever, I was like, holy fuck, I can do so much damage. That is just so cool. Like, it's the same sort of thing with like, you unlock new units, you unlock new abilities for your commanders. Like, it's really cool. I liked it a lot.
So some people are asking what it is, and it's like the quick breakdown of it is just you and a partner are doing these mission maps. There's like an objective on the map that you're both trying to defend, destroy, whatever. There's some variance to it. And you have a commander, and the commander changes like your abilities. Kerrigan is this beat stick. Jim, as Lycan calls him, is he can call in like banshees. He can call in the Hyperion, which has crashed like 3 times. So who knows how he's doing that, but it is. And then the Protoss guy, Artanis, he has like you're taking control of his spaceship in fucking outer space, a Dune Spear or whatever it's called. And that can do orbital shots. It can open up pylon areas so you can warp in there. It can give extra shield. So it's like different kinds of buffs for your army as you accomplish these missions working in tandem with somebody else. So that's what Allied Commander is.
And I think that it's important to recognize too that while Kerrigan is a playable character, Jim Raynor and Artanis are not. Like, they provide options in play, but they're not actually. It's not just like MOBA and StarCraft combined against co-op. They're all sort of, each race or each hero brings something unique to the way you play it out. And you have base management still. So you start with, a hatchery and 12 workers just like you would in any Legacy of the Void game. But you sort of build up and you have to go, complete these objectives. Like in the train one, you have to destroy the train before too many trains get through.
And just like single player, there's some different stuff too. Like the Zealots have different weapons actually. There's some different abilities as well. So there is like, it has that single player flair to it where it's not just a straight up this is multiplayer played this way or single player played this way or MOBA, like Jack Attack was saying. It's like its own thing, and I think that was very smart and intuitive by Blizzard.
Yeah.
I think it's just this awesome like in between step for the campaign players who are like 1v1 is really fucking scary. It's like, oh, try I like Commander's thing. It's all right, cool. Maybe like they start making the way over to Archon mode or something like that. But the gap between a person who plays campaign and a person who plays 1 versus 1 now has like small steps in between it for people who want to just get into it, but not in this like super like hardcore. All right, I'm doing 1 versus 1. I'm gonna train and I'm gonna be good at StarCraft and all this kind of stuff. You know.
Yeah, Steven, so you haven't heard, you weren't at that summit.
Wow, Lycan.
Lycan.
I mean,
I wish you guys could see my face.
salt.
No, I'm saying you've heard this like from these guys here. You've read what has been released and all that. What are your thoughts on the thing?
I mean, from the little bit I saw, it looked pretty cool. It's kind of a boring answer, but it'll come a lot down to implementation. I guess how it actually plays out. You guys have more experience with it than I did, though, so I don't have much to add. I don't think.
I think what I really like about it is it brings that social aspect, right? So you have to talk to someone, you have to coordinate, you're going to learn together, right? Someone's going to say, it's just like, when you play 1v1 and you talk with a friend and you try to figure things out, you guys have a common objective, so it increases the desire for both of you, like, hey, we want to play this level on Brutal, so let's talk about how we're going to actually do it. And in a lot of ways, though there are different units you don't have, there are units that you have different, abilities, like different weapons, like Jack Attack was talking about, it's still going to force you in a lot of ways to learn, and I think it is going to be that good step in between. Give me 1 second, Graham. Go ahead and talk about something.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
Just you don't have to. You don't have to.
Just chill. We should just be silent the entire time.
Yeah.
When he comes back,
Just a moment of silence for Lycan's career. If we can just do that, please.
It's this shit when it's like you're in the car and your parents are like, "It's time to play the quiet game, guys."
Only it's more awkward because he's hosting a show and instead just.
Well, it was the show thing that I had to take care of.
Yeah, I
So,
believe
Oh,
that.
really? I
apologies.
thought that this was the show thing that you had to take care of. What are the shows you
Honestly,
running?
that's the quickest I've ever seen someone masturbate. I think that's pretty amazing.
Well played. Well played.
All right. Anyway,
Can we joke about masturbating on stream now, or is that like a...
Yeah. You just can't do it.
You just can't do it.
well,
That's
you
why I
can't let
paused.
people
Can't
see you do
pretend
it.
to do it either.
You
That's,
can't let people
Or
see you
hear
do
it, I
it.
imagine. You probably can't listen to it either. I think that
No snorting semen on stream.
What the fuck? All right, cool. Jack Attack. Any final thoughts on Allied Commanders?
It's super fucking fun. It's like ridiculously fun. Like we were all in the room playing it at the time. We're like, oh god, look at this cool thing you can do. It brings that sort of like fantasy and excitement. And I think people are gonna have a really, really good time with it.
Cool. Jeff, final thoughts on Allied Commanders?
Yeah, I think as a full package for purchasing Legacy of Void, which is a standalone game, by the way, you don't have to have the other two. It's just awesome, and I think the special magic is that it's Blizzard backed, and it's not just an arcade game that'll come out and nobody will touch it ever again. They've already told us well, I can't imagine I'm going to get destroyed. If I disappear tomorrow, guys, let me know. But they plan on releasing more heroes and more maps and like actually supporting it. So it's something you can count on for a while. I think that's really cool.
Yep. Graham, final thoughts?
I think, yeah, what In Control just said, I think is the biggest thing for me, the longevity of it, because it's so easy for a game like that to get boring once you beat it. Like, I can see it's like, well, now I get to grind out all the Protoss levels of this hero, then the next hero, and it's, I don't know, it's pretty cool looking. And if they implement anything close to reward systems at all, like, maybe you can unlock a portrait for, like, leveling up all your characters and stuff, like, that's even cooler. Like, there's so much stuff they could do with it, and I'm excited about the potential of it, more so than what we've already seen.
Cool. All right. Then we're going to move forward. Now we're going to talk about Adderall and esports. Adderall is a drug that is used to treat ADD, ADHD, and I'm not familiar with any other disorders that it treats. But before we go into the discussion, let's talk about something. Okay, for those who don't know, because this is like one of those things like anti-vaxxing that just has some weird stigmas about it. ADD, ADHD is a disorder. It's kind of like a chemical imbalance. Same thing with depression, where certain receptors and triggers aren't working in the brain when it comes to the way that I learned about it is the rewards, for doing something. So if you were to do an action or you were to do work, your brain is getting a constant reward by, the stimulation of doing what you're doing. And people with ADD, ADHD, that's a problem for them. They don't get those chemical things. So what Adderall does is it counteracts that. It normalizes the individual. So Now, if you don't have that issue, Adderall is like cocaine. It's a stimulant. It creates like this super focused mentality. And
let me stop everyone real quick. Everything you said so far is kind of true, except that Adderall is like cocaine. Please continue.
Oh no, I mean, give me your thoughts on that. I'm not.
No, you
Don't
have
tell
cocaine
the
a lot.
public that Adderall is cocaine. That they're
I'm,
You brought
like
cocaine
the
a lot
sin,
on
it's
this
the
show
sin
today.
of every
Are you
dare
okay?
officer
Like-
ever. Don't smoke marijuana because it'll lead to prostitution and death. Like,
I'm not saying it's like cocaine. It's.
You did say it. You said
I'm not saying
Adderall
it's
is like cocaine.
The problem is with the way that you said it, it can be very easily misconstrued. I think you're trying to say that if someone doesn't need Adderall, then it acts as a stimulant.
okay. It is a stimulant.
Saying the word cocaine is not smart.
Yes.
Man, I think we could have like moved forward and things would have just been fine. But anyway,
No, I agree. The differentiation was necessary.
Jeff, I
No,
noticed
no,
you
I
drinking
think
that
it's necessary to
Monster.
clarify.
Now, for those of you that don't know, Monster is essentially crack cocaine. I think it's fine. They both energize you, right? That's what they do. It's like, yeah. Hey, Mom, I was watching the late game, and Lycan said cocaine is like Adderall. Why do you give me Adderall? Who the fuck is Lycan? It's like, he's some guy. He fought for America. A goddamn honorable man who's completely wrong.
all right.
Honorable man teaching my kid about cocaine.
Okay. Look, I don't have anything to compare it to then, because it's not like caffeine. The feeling you get from Adderall is just it's through the fucking roof, especially if you don't need it. So there are people who have used it to increase their performance. There are people who did it in college. They easily in America it is extremely easy to get an Adderall prescription. You go to the doctor, you say, "Hey, I can't focus in school," and doctors are allowed to just say, "Okay, here, have some Adderall." The end. It's
Talking pretty quick right now. Are you?
It also sounded like you're talking from experience. Like, did a friend of yours once take a bunch of Adderall?
no, I've had a prescription for Adderall.
There you go.
It's different though for people that need it. I heard. Anyways, this
Yeah.
is like way too much, guys. The short end of it is that
What
ESL
was-
is
what
going
were
to
we
start
talking
drug
about?
testing for Adderall, but the kind of question mark is that they haven't really said what they're all going to test for. It's come up because Team Cloud9, I don't know if you want to say leaked, but accidentally informed the community that they're all avid fans of crack cocaine Adderall, and they help. What the actual effect that people are, it's not necessarily that it's a stimulant, it's more that it helps them focus like rigidly hard. Like when someone who doesn't need Adderall takes Adderall, whatever the fuck they're focusing on becomes the center of their universe forever. And that's why a lot of gamers for the last 25 years have like been not even caught is the way to say it. It comes out that some of them rely on Adderall to make them better at the video game. So the ethical question is Adderall, this thing that people have used all the time to pass exams in college, abusively, you could say, or do better in gaming, is that something we should drug test for and make the center of attention?
Yes. So
Yes, we should, or yes, that's the question.
I'm sorry.
What do you think, Destiny? I think we should start with you for the baseline.
I don't really. It's an interesting question. I'm not sure. This is like, does anybody remember in like grade school when like or high school the teacher would ask the class like, "Hey guys, let's pretend in the future like people can take like cybernetic implants to become better. Should we let them become better than a normal person? What if a handicapped person, got robot legs that made them 20 times faster than a normal person? Like, what are all the implications of that? And
You
it's
joke
like,
that actually came up in the Olympics. The guy with prosthetic legs, the certain design actually made him run faster than most normal people.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's not even you say joke, but I'm not even really joking. Like, it's
Yeah.
definitely a valid question. Like, should let's say you have somebody with some kind of attention deficit disorder. Is that person on Adderall going to be able to focus better than a normal? I'd say normal, but somebody who doesn't have the same issues, who doesn't have access to Adderall, like
So
they're.
from experience,
Mhm.
I have ADHD. I didn't just go to a doctor and say, "Hey, I can't focus," and he said, "Hey, fuck you. Here's some Adderall." I took tests. I went through a process. I didn't want to do drugs. I didn't want to take the drugs. But there was a noticeable difference. And the first 2 weeks on Adderall is fucking mind-blowing focus, right? I get to work, I get shit done. I have half a day where I don't know what to do with myself because I want to do things, and I've already done all the things I can do, right? After 2 weeks, you normalize. and it just becomes business as usual. The difference is when you try to focus with ADHD and you don't have the medicine, and you're not in a routine, so it's not you're doing constant repetitive actions, right? But you have to actually do something like write a paper for school or something like that, right? The trying to focus when you're not getting that reward from focusing is hard. And so, you know, you have to struggle. You have to say, come on, I gotta focus, I gotta think. And it's not until the last moment where you have that pressure, like forcing you to do something, that it's a lot easier for you to do it. So if I were to sit down and write a paper once I've normalized, it's just like I sit down and write a paper, I'm able to put my thoughts to the paper and be done with it. I'm able to go to work, not have to, you know, flip through the internet for an hour before I'm able to actually start working. So you do normalize. Now, the thing is, though, is that if you are prescribed more than you get, you start to get funky, you start to feel weird, et cetera, but that's a different thing. The question would be, let's say that ESL says, if you have a prescription for Adderall, if you've been tested and proven to have a deficiency, so not just focus issues, but you've actually been told by your doctor, hey, you have this or that, right? How can they ensure that, first of all, that you got a valid prescription, or that you got a valid diagnosis, right? And second of all, because it's, again, very easy to get diagnosed like that without going to a psychologist, how do you determine someone is using a prescription properly without saying, oh, well, fuck, if I can just go easily get a prescription, I'm going to go get it, and look at that, I got a prescription, haha, you can't tell me I can't use Adderall. So do they just ban anyone from using Adderall? If you use Adderall, period, end of story, you don't get to compete in esports? Or is it let's do an in-depth, you know, study and find out how many people currently use Adderall for prescription uses and things like that? Like, how do we go about this without just saying no one with Adderall can compete?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear anything you said.
I like, honestly, like, this is one of those issues where there's no winners. There's no way to please everybody. I don't know what the correct answer is. Does anyone here think that they can give like an absolute correct answer? Like, I feel like, do you remember that there was a story that came up a couple months ago where a woman was a man was a wrestler. But it was a transgendered woman, and eventually they had the surgeries and they became a woman. And then there was a big debate on should she be able to wrestle?
Oh, the MMA fighter.
Or MMA, not wrestle. Yeah, do MMA. And like, so is the answer no? So no transgender people are ever allowed then to compete in sports? Well, that kind of sucks. That's not really like equal rights. Like, so transgender people are just fucked, right? Or do you say yes, and then the people that aren't transgendered now, because being able to train puberty as a man and then transfer over to a woman, like, is
the issue with her?
Fair,
that woman has a pretty small frame in general, right? The transgendered woman. But
but this isn't even. You don't even have to get into specifics. I'm just saying that, like, philosophically,
right?
Like, that's a question where there's no winners. Or everybody wins and everybody loses. Like, you either say fuck all transgender people and getting to perform in sports, or you say, well, okay, transgender people can compete, but now the people that aren't transgender might feel like they're getting hella fucked out of that deal, especially women, right, who have to compete with somebody who got to train as a man. It's not really fair, right? So there's like no good answer there,
Yeah.
So again, you go back to the Adderall thing, like, say there's somebody who has ADHD and now he gets a prescription of Adderall. I mean, if like you said, like, are you going to know if they use too much Adderall? Like, he's already got a prescription for it. What if somebody, is able to fake it enough to get a prescription for Adderall? What if somebody who has ADHD, if you were to do a sample size of 100 people with ADHD who take Adderall compared to normal people who don't have ADHD, and then, see who can focus better, and all of the kids who have Adderall, even though they have ADHD, the drug actually, puts them at a better level of focus than an undrugged person, is it fair for them to compete? And then if you say no, they can't compete, so if you have ADHD, now you can't be a pro gamer, well, that kind of sucks, or, like, there's no, I don't know what the answer is.
I feel like either way, there's going to be, like, if that's something that you introduce as ESL, you have to consider that's going to be a lot of overhead to be, all right, checking everyone and making sure, like, the more you try to get as fair as possible, but the more that you do, the more it's going to cost you to make this happen. And I think you have to sort of weigh, like, the effect of it all, sort of like, okay, how big of a problem is this really in esports right now? And can we support the overhead to try and manage it?
So I'm sure at some point somewhere there's been like a similar argument made for this, and I'm not saying this is my point of view, But like, what about going the opposite direction, where it's just like it's okay to use Adderall? Like instead of it being like a hush hush thing, then everyone's performance levels increases and it's a fair playing field or something like that.
Well,
Well,
then are there negative drawbacks to using Adderall and abusing it?
yes, and
I would
there
imagine so.
it's an amphetamine. Like you can go through, you can become addicted to it. You can become reliant on it. It's the baseball does that though. MLB.
I was gonna say, yeah,
And
this is
football.
really funny because everybody else has had these issues. There's a huge issue. Have you heard of people talking about in the Major League Baseball how they were gonna go back and start revoking records for people that steroided and like how far back they would have to go? And the same thing happened with the bicycling bullshit with fucking
Blood doping.
yeah, what was fuck? Oh god,
Neil
who was
Armstrong.
like the Uno test?
Lance
yeah.
Armstrong. Lance Armstrong.
Yeah, Lance Armstrong. Yeah.
Okay,
They
alright.
had to go back. Well, they had to go back, and it was like they everybody got mad at Lance Armstrong, but I think you had to go down like 27 places to find the next player who didn't dope. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, with that, MLB just says if you have a prescription from your doctor, you're allowed to use Adderall, and then that's the end of it. There was that guy who was going to get fined because he popped 4 Adderall. He was prescribed it, but he never reported it, and that's part of the process for them. So I feel like, and I'm never going to be a pro gamer, so people could say, yeah, you're speaking from bias, but I'm never, regardless of how much Adderall I take, I'm never going to sit on that stage and compete. So I'm saying this from the idea of a gamer who does have it and needs it to be regular and needs it to be able to focus at the normal level of a person that doesn't have that chemical imbalance. You exclude a lot of people. I would imagine that the gaming community has a lot of people that use Adderall on a regular basis, and I assume that ESL, if they move forward with this, is going to have to do some sort of study, or they will do some sort of study to find out who's competing in their tournaments using Adderall legally.
One of the more interesting comments I saw that I thought is kind of like just on an ethics level, I think people probably generally speaking should not be like, if you don't need to take Adderall and you're taking Adderall to get an edge in a game, just ethically speaking, I think we can all agree that's probably on some level not okay. And then people are like, well, what about caffeine? I know people that chug energy drinks before a competition. Is that performance enhancing? It's like, yeah, certainly there's going to be an argument against it. It's not so black and white. And it's not the most evil thing you can do in the world either. It's not like if you take Adderall, you win. It's not like doing a weightlifting competition with steroids that like absolutely makes your muscles larger and stronger, and that's what's being competed for. Like, not really. But there will be false positives. People will get popped as you took Adderall or an illegal substance and you're in trouble now. Well, they're taking that drug test at a tournament that their team sent them to. They don't have a union. They don't have any defense. So what has that player done? Like, does ESL then say, okay, you can go sit in the hotel, but you're not competing in our tournament? That player is in the deepest of deep fucking doo-doos because their team is going to, like, is that a CSGO player and all of a sudden it's 4 versus 5 for the rest of the tournament that completely sinks the entire tournament for that roster? Is there going to be a strike system? Like, all these kind of questions come up. But what if, and this does happen, it happens all the way in the NFL with the best drug testing you could possibly ask for, if a guy gets a false positive without representation or any defense whatsoever, they could actually just get their entire career kind of fucked on. Their team could just, they could be punished up to wazoo, and they did absolutely nothing wrong. So that to me is a pretty scary check that is part of the reason why, and I'm not a competitor, so ultimately this is just my conjecture. I don't have like a first-hand experience opinion on this, but in this climate, I'm not for it because of that. Not because of the people that shouldn't be competing on Adderall, but because of the people that will get caught without having ever taken anything like Adderall, and they'll be completely fucked on. It's just part of the system.
Agreed. I think that one of the things that I hope that ESL, I haven't talked to anyone at ESL about this, I hope that they are considering is that they are the biggest gaming organization in the world. When they take an action like this, it's going to set a precedent. It's going to set some sort of standard. And I hope there's a little more than just a little internal discussion about how they're going to go forward. But I think that's really the extent of that topic. I think we all brought up some good points just about what this is going to mean. And, because we're not talking about steroids, right? We're talking about a drug that is, we're not talking about, the kind of steroids that are used and abused in things like, bodybuilding and competitive sports or physical sports. We're talking about a drug that is used to treat issues with people, and it's easily obtained. But at the same time, anyway, so I'm rambling on that. Anyone have a final thought before we move on to questions? Nope. Cool. All right. it is time for questions. I feel like that's one of the more serious discussions we've had on the show.